Welcome to Sunny Side Up Podcast. I am your host, David.
What's
Andrew
going on,
Futrell.
guys? How's it going?
So today we're going to start off with some rapid fire for targeting customers.
Let's do it.
So define your ideal customer for a hair salon. So first question
Yep.
is what age?
Okay. Hair salons, I would keep broad because it depends. If it's in a neighborhood, you're going for families, so you can go full age spectrum. But there are some hair salons where it's very targeted towards specifically like the one that I go to, Mustache Salon. They're targeting more males and they're targeting more like I'd say like 23 to like 45. Right? So it just kind of depends on the brand. Like my mom's salon that she goes to, hair salon, it's targeting more like 40 to 60-year-old women, right? So it depends on the brand, but that's where we'll start.
Mhm.
Is the age demographics go based off of who you're going to serve best? Yeah.
Okay, so for like you're starting up a hair salon, who are you targeting?
Yep. So and yeah, so if you're opening up a hair salon in Livonia, Michigan, which is where we're close by, that's where I grew up, where you grew up as well. Um, I would go full age spectrum.
Okay,
Yeah.
gender.
Gender. Um, so I personally I like to choose. Not saying that there are only two genders. You're putting me in a hole here.
There are.
But ultimately, if you have a style that's more male leaning haircuts, then like it would be better for you to target just the male gender,
Mhm.
right? If you historically are cutting females' hair, it's better to just target females because in the case that, my girlfriend needs her haircut too, and she can't get in where she goes, then like I'll bring my girlfriend along. And like you can still service both long hair and short hair, but you want to target one or the other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Income.
Income for a hair salon, ultimately at the end of the day, most of them across the board are similar price points. So like you have your Lady Jane's or your mom and pop shop hair salons, and then you have like your high ticket, high end hair salons. So like those ones you're going to target people more based off of their affinity to brands, not necessarily their income level, if that makes sense. So like mine, Mustache Salon is the hair salon that I go to. It's in Dearborn. They would target me more off of the fact that I buy like Nike and things like that
Mm.
rather than off of how much money I make. Because regardless of how much money I make, if I want to look a certain way, I'm going to go get my hair cut there. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So, income level for a hair salon, I don't think necessarily matters because across the board you're getting similar price cut anywhere you go. And then in the case that it's a higher end haircut, you target more off of like people will splurge no matter what their income level if it's on looking good themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Buying habits.
Buying habits similar. Um, for the higher end place, I would go, people that purchase online often, like Amazon, Amazon Prime, all that type of stuff. I would go people that are constantly like people that are interested in Starbucks would be somebody that's more likely to spend more money on a haircut. People that have an iPhone versus an Android are more likely to spend more money on a haircut.
Hmm.
Different things like that. So like it's it sounds bad when I say it out loud, but people that are more easily influenced will typically spend more money on things than
Mhm.
those that are not. So like a business owner, for instance, I work with real estate agents. This one's gonna be a little bit longer of an answer. I work with real estate agents. Typically, when you're selling high-end luxury real estate, the person that owns that home has a friend who's a luxury real estate agent. So they're not necessarily searching online for a new realtor,
Mhm.
right? So then how do you get a lead if you're going after that type of a person? So it's ultimately, if they're the business owner in that scenario is somebody that's far less influenced by advertisements, influencers, commercials, anything like that. They're far more influenced by their direct network and the people they talk to every day, right? So like a business owner is somebody that's probably just going to cheap out and go to like the family owned barbershop that's been around for 50, 60 years that they've just been getting their hair cut at, because they don't really care to go to Mustache and Dearborn and drive 30 minutes to get a haircut, because they don't care necessarily about the cut or how much money they're paying for it. They more so like are like, oh, this is where my dad went. And like, so
Mhm.
it just depends on your ability to be influenced. Typically, the lower the income, the more ability you have to influence. The higher the income, the less ability you have to influence. It's very
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like almost an opposite of what
Yes.
you would think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the last one would be marital status.
Um, so again, this one for a hair salon, I don't know that it matters too much, but there are marketing plays that you could make for the different for different hairstyles, for different, marketing campaigns and things like that. You could definitely come up with, like, again, if you were targeting 30 to 55-year-old females who were recently widowed or divorced,
Mhm.
I could come up with a killer advertisement for that. But you're also only going to now appeal to a percentage of the market rather than the more broad spectrum of the market. Like if you were targeting a family, now instead of just hitting that specific type of person, you have access to kids, significant others, all that type of stuff, rather than this specific type of person. So, and that's the thing. It really comes down to where the business, if it's brick and mortar, where is it going to be placed? Um, and what types of people tend to be around that place. Like Royal Oak, I would go gender specific and like towards a certain buyer type. Where Livonia, I would go more broad and we appeal to everybody. Like
Mhm.
Royal Oak has more younger 18 to 30 males and females that are very, very particular about what they look like.
Mhm.
So I would charge more for the haircut and I would be very specialized in a certain type of fade. Right. And like that. So I would
Yep.
kind of almost, I would define what I want my business to look like and what my skill set is, and then I would look at the locations that I'm looking at, and then I would evolve the business model based on like who I could best serve, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've heard too that you should like almost, I mean, if you can draw, like draw your customer. Like, what do
Yes.
they look like? What
Yep.
and
So
this
when I start with a new customer, not to cut you off, but when I start with a new client, I bring up the first conversation that we have after they sign a contract is talking about their 3 ideal customer avatars. And it literally is that exercise of drawing that person. Who are they? And not just age, gender, marital status. Like you got into buying habits. Buying habits
Mhm.
can go 10 times further, right? So like on Facebook and Instagram, they know if you are the type of person that will go and get coffee at a certain coffee shop 4 days a week. That's not just a buying habit of he buys Starbucks. That's literally like, no, 4 days a week, this
Right.
guy goes and gets a double shot of espresso with a little bit of almond milk added to it.
Mhm.
Like they know specifically what you buy
And what time?
and what time, and all of that stuff is calculated. They know if you're more of a steakhouse type of eater or a fast food type of eater, and they'll serve you advertisements based on that. So it goes far more into who the person is, not just the outer layer. You know,
Mhm.
yeah.
So like when you have your avatars, you say, okay, Billy Bob is going to be buying my stuff. He's this age, whatnot. How do you go about finding that person?
So for me, the two ways that I go about it are paid advertising on search and social. So Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those X. all those different platforms, because personally, I think that that's the most targeted that you can get, the most accurate you can get out of any advertising or any marketing. The next is purchasing a list. And there are a bunch of websites that you can do that from, of verified contact information and lists. The thing about that is there are rules and laws and policies and compliance that you have to follow when reaching out to those people. So for me as a marketing agency, I have to email or call those people first and get them to opt in to any form of contact from my company. I can't just start advertising to them, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
If you're just running an advertisement, you run an ad and you're targeting a cold audience and you define it by age, gender, income, buying habits, marital status, household income, in some cases, religious affinities and all that type of
Mhm.
stuff. And then from there, anybody that engages is who I further engage with. So if they
Yeah.
open an email, boom, those are the people that I'm emailing a second time, right? If they like a post on Facebook, boom, those are the people that I'm reaching out to directly in the DM. I don't wait for them to see my next ad. I literally will hit them up.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so ultimately, you've got cold targeting and warm targeting. That's what I would consider those two as. Buying a list is relatively warmer because you know that that's the right person and you can get in touch with them directly. And then cold would be just paid advertising, blasting an advertisement out there, seeing who responds, who watches, who engages, all that type of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So after you found your guy
Yeah.
or your girl, what questions do you ask them? Kind of more like a sales pitch. So
Yeah.
you find Billy Bob, you say, I think that my advertising service might be the right fit for you.
Yep.
What are you asking them to start your sales pitch and to let them know that you are a potential fit for them?
So really what I start with, like if we went with the hair salon example, if I was going to a hair salon, the big thing for me is how are you guys generating business today? Like how does it come in right now? Are you upset with it? Do you like it? Could you use more? Do you want more? Like give me a pulse of how that's looking. And usually the answer that I get, hair salons are one of them. Well, we have a Google profile, we have social media pages, we have an ad running in a magazine, and we have this billboard that we buy for 4 months out of the year. And it's like, okay, so broadly that answers what you're doing, which is awesome, gives me a pulse for the fact that you guys do advertise. Um, do you like it? How's it working? Are you upset with the company that you work through? Like how, like your vendors and your partners, like how does all that look? Are you, and I ultimately what I'm trying to do is identify a pain point and just see if there's any like, okay, so off of that, I know you have a Facebook page, but you never ran a Facebook ad. Boom, pain point. But if they're getting enough leads and enough business, I don't have a need to pitch them because I'm not necessarily a sales guy, like we talked about in our last conversation. So like, I'll ask a bunch of these questions just around, hey, what do you do? How is it working? How is it working for you? And then also a step further, how do you like it? And if I sniff out that they don't like it or they're upset with a partner or a vendor or anything like that, and I identified some red flags of like, oop, I'd be doing this if I were you, then I'll go into a pitch. But it's only if I identify that they're not happy with their current situation. I'm never pitching anybody if they're like, yeah, we have this billboard we buy 4 months out of the year, and like, dude, we are just jam packed busy. Cool. You don't need
Mhm.
me, you know? But yeah, that's kind of how those are the questions that I would ask about. And I'm very blunt. So like I don't have room for small talk in my brain. Not even like in time and as a person, just in my brain. I can't like comprehend like we got into it right for an hour and a half
You're darn
before
right.
this just of like deep conversation. So yeah, so for me it's more of like, hey, like straight to the mustard. Like what do you guys do to generate business? I see you got a lot of Google reviews. Do you guys run Google ads? No, but we had before. Awesome. When you did it work? Yeah, it did, but like we didn't like it. Cool. Nothing for me to say. Awesome. Do you guys do anything else? And then we, continue to go. And if there is nothing, then at the end of the day, all I am is a curious business owner, just talking to another business owner, asking about their business and how they succeed. So no
Mhm.
harm, no foul for me. If it was a sales guy, that's a completely different conversation because they go into it kind of knowing that you're trying to sell them in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when you talk to these people that are a potential customer, how do you navigate your sales pitch, if you want to call it that,
Mhm.
or just your information gathering based on their personality?
So a lot of times I'm dealing directly with the owner, and owners care about two things: passion. They might care about more than two things, but two things that I'm aware of are passion and vision. And so what I try and do when I'm talking is I try and keep the focus of the conversation on themselves. Business owners are very selfish inherently. Everything's about them at the end of the day. That's not a bad thing. That's just point blank. That's how it is. Because in their business, at the end of the day, regardless of how many employees they have, if something goes wrong, it's their fault. So everything's about them. So I try and keep the light on them, but when it does get tossed back to me because they start asking questions about who I am and who my company is and all that stuff, I have I have a 3-slide presentation that is my entire pitch deck. It's 3 slides. Who we are, who the team is, what brands we've helped. That's it. So it's 1 slide on who we are, 1 slide on everybody on the team, and then 1 slide on it literally is just the logos of all the different brands that we've helped out. And so I'll go through that. If it's just a phone call, I handle that in 30 to 90 seconds. If it's a Zoom call, I'll bring up the presentation. I'll talk through each of the points. We'll get through it in 10 or 15 minutes. But ultimately, I don't have a pitch because with marketing, it's not necessarily like I said earlier, we all have the same buttons. So the reason why you're going to work with me is because you believe what I believe and because you like me as a person. So when the ball gets passed back into my court, who are you? Like what, da da da. It's like, hey, I've been doing this for 6 years. Here's a little bit about my company. One of the biggest successes we had was this, and I give one case study, and then here are a couple of the brands that we've worked with. And point blank, that's pretty much it. Then we get into the nitty gritties, but that's different per client. And so I don't ever have a set in stone, this is what I have to offer in my pitch. It's more of okay, now let's draw on a whiteboard what would make sense for you. And then we design a solution. The customer feels more involved in the fact that they designed the thing that they're now going to get. And then when I quote it, I'm just quoting what they designed. So now I can handle my price objection in the fact that, hey, dude, I didn't choose this. You said you wanted it. Now, if you don't want it, we can take that out and we'll adjust the quote and the quote will be less. But you said you wanted that. And so now when I pitch them and they give price objections, it's like, hey, if you want what you want at that level, then this is the quote that satisfies what you asked for. And now it's them asking me, not me pitching them. So I learned that from my dad. Probably 10 years ago now, is he had a 3-slide thing. Hey, here's some info about me, and all you're looking to do is build authority and trust. Authority in the sense that we've helped these brands and we've gotten this result, and then trust in the fact that we're local. You can see the faces of the team members, all that type of stuff. It's very relatable. We're part of the chamber, all the things that would make them uh and then the logos of who we've helped also help with trust because I'll have certain situations where in my pitch they'll be like, oh my gosh, I know the owner of that business. And then it's like, cool, give them a call. They loved working with me. And now it's an easier trust building thing.
Mhm.
So yeah. So I'm looking to build trust and authority and all that type of stuff at that point. And then we let them design it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you talk about the presentation thing,
Mhm.
I like that 3-slide
Yeah.
because I don't know how many times back in high school we would be given presentations on history of the Ottoman Empire or whatever, and then that kid would just be facing away from the class reading a paragraph on his PowerPoint slide.
Right.
Like, dude, you know how boring that is?
And you don't even know what you're saying.
No.
You know, like you're literally you have to read off the slide because you're so bored about the information that you don't know it. And so that's where the passion and the vision comes into play of like, hey, like I want to get to the mustard here. I want to talk about your marketing.
Mhm.
I can show you about my company, but that's so set in stone. The vision there is so set in stone that like we don't need to spend time on that. And
Right.
then they hear me get fired up as I'm talking about it and as I get into it, and then it's like, boom, the only thing they remember is how you make them feel.
Mhm.
And so if I'm fired up and they feel like, an example that a mentor of mine gave is, if I put an acorn in front of you, what do you see? And some people sit there and say, well, I see an acorn tree. Some people say, well, I see a factory that is putting together pencils. Some people say, well, I see a whole new neighborhood that just went up. Other people say, well, I see a whole society that was built off of that acorn. And so it's like depth of vision. And if you can show that you can see 10 steps past what they're expecting you to see, that it all adds up and it all helps out with them feeling good about working with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just yeah, feeling good about working with you. That's like so key.
Yep.
And reading slides off of a PowerPoint is not going to get you there.
No, and most marketing pitch decks, this is why I did it because IT, which is where my dad's company came from, is far different than marketing. And so he did that in the IT world because most of the times when you talk about technology, it's very confusing. And so
Mhm.
he just was like, I don't want to confuse anybody. Well, when you look at marketing companies, their pitch decks on average are 60 to 80 slides. And sometimes one slide is just a meme, just to like crack a joke to get to the next slide. And it's like, that's pointless. If I'm talking to a business owner, that what do they value the most? Talking about themselves. What do they value the second most? Their time. Why would I put a meme on any slide to show you?
Mhm.
So I keep it short and sweet because then they go and get pitched by my competitors, and my competitors put them through a 45-minute presentation and then leave 10 minutes for questions. My conversation's 10 to 15 minutes, and then we get 45 minutes for questions. So it's just completely flip-flopped. It throws people off. And that's what like I'm not a sales guy. So like my whole thing is throwing people off. That's what I'm here to do. Like nobody should know my next move. And that's what makes people feel like that uncertain good feeling. And then they want to fulfill the certainty. So then they choose to sign because they're like, I'm uncertain, but I feel good. And then they're like, all right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to, let's say that you're given this presentation, this 3 slide presentation, not 45 slides,
Yep.
how do you approach that person? And like with your, so like you found your target customer,
Yep.
you kind of narrowed them down, all right, based on their personality, this is how I'm going to present my information to them.
Yep.
How are you going about that initial interaction?
So everything in business is logical. It's not emotional. Okay. So if that is the case, and we all agree on that, then conversations that have to take place in order to push a sale through, in order to do sales and like get somebody to agree to do business with you, all you have to do is identify the logical next step. So the first conversation that you have should be to identify the pain point. Hey, how do you get your leads today? Da, 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 da. We've never ran Facebook ads. Cool. Do you like your marketing people, your marketing partner? Da, 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 da. The agency that we just had for Facebook sucked. Boom. All right. Logical next step is for us to have a conversation talking about Facebook ads. When can we have that? And then we pick a day and a time. Cool. We have that conversation. I don't pitch. I'm just gathering more information. Hey, logical next step of this is for me to tell you about what we can do for you. When can we have that conversation? Boom. And by the way, this is something I learned from my buddy Jared. In sales, you never want to end a meeting without having your next meeting on the schedule. Okay. So if you leave a meeting and you don't have something in their calendar, the likelihood of that next meeting happening goes down by like literally like 2/3.
Hmm.
Okay. So in every meeting that you have, you want to leave with the next appointment scheduled. This is B2B sales. This isn't like e-commerce sales. And then in that next conversation, I have my deck, my 3-slide deck that I go over. And then the rest of that conversation is just Q&A about, hey, like, do you like the way that we work? Like, what are, like, we talked in our last conversation about the fact that you aren't doing Facebook ads and you hated the last agency that you worked with. Did everything that you hear, like, cover, like, the fact that you would actually probably love working with us compared to your last person and da 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 da? Typically, the answer is yes. What I'm trying to do is create a logical solution to a well thought out plan. The logical solution is yes. Okay. And I just am coming with a well thought out plan. So, like, everything from step one is intentional and they feel good the whole way because all I'm here to do is be your friend. I don't care if we do business together. I have no motive. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not motivated by a commission bonus. Like, I do just fine. I'm good. So, like, I'm actually here. This is my advantage against any other marketing agency is I'm not a sales rep for the marketing company. I'm the owner. I do just fine. So, like, when I'm approaching people, it is genuine. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, like, if I actually can help, then we'll have a next conversation. And then if we end up having that next conversation, then it's like, okay, so the logical conclusion to this well thought out plan is a signature on the bottom of this page here. And if everybody agrees, then that's usually how that next meeting ends, is with that signature. And then the next conversation after that is our onboarding, which is very, very meticulous and thought out, because again, it's not about what you say, it's about how you make them feel. And if you're high touch, you're over communicative to the point of annoyance, and you're thorough and detailed and thought out, your customer won't care what type of results you get them in 30, 60, 90, 120, 180, 365 days. They don't give a shit. They're just pumped that like the person that they're working with is competent and fast. That's it. And that makes them feel good.
Mm-hmm.
People want to work with people that are workers, that work hard. It's 99% thought, 1% action.
That's like a Linkin Park line.
Right. Yeah.
One of their songs.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's how I approach those conversations is I don't have to push you into it. The logical next step is for us to have another conversation. It's just business. We haven't made a transaction yet. We're just talking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we get to the point of transaction, that's going to be at the end of one of our meetings. And so in that moment, yes, that's business and you need to make a decision. That's going to be a little bit awkward and uncomfortable, but like point blank, like my goal isn't to sell you. I'm just following a straight line. And if you're following that line too, that means that you want the help in that area. Otherwise, you wouldn't have entertained the conversation from day one. And we'd be talking about like what your favorite taco place is, not
Mhm.
about your marketing, So yeah, if people open up, then I'm gonna push through the door. And if I notice that I can redo the kitchen, I'm gonna redo the kitchen. And like I already know that I can. So
Mhm.
in most of those cases, because I'm looking at them and I'm saying, well, for a hair salon, I know that most of them don't have this. So I can go into the conversation knowing, oh, you don't have a way to text your customers already. Boom. Solution.
Mhm.
And now it's just me making you aware of the fact that, yeah, most hair salons do text their customers. And so you guys should too.
Mhm.
And then once they're aware of that, the logical conclusion is to have another conversation and then
Yep.
keep moving that down the path. Yeah,
More kind of like taking their hand and leading them
exactly.
than saying like,
Yes.
oh, 1v1,
It's not, Gary Vee calls it hand-to-hand combat, which is what sales is at the end of the day. It's how many times can you touch somebody. But for me, it's literally leading a horse to water and then showing them how to drink it.
hmm
Not forcing them to drink it, but showing them how to drink it. It's the difference between a boss and a leader. And that's kind of how I try and run the sales is as a leader. Hey, and this is the whole why behind mindset marketing as a whole. The reason why we started is because there was a miseducation, not even an uneducation, a miseducation of how digital marketing was supposed to be done. There, in the early 2000s, there became a thing called black hat and white hat SEO. And it was the difference between the legal, proper way to rank inside of Google and the finesse, sketchy way of I can get you to rank number one in Google. When Instagram came out, the first marketing agencies that existed from my generation, from the 28-year-olds that all started agencies in 2015, the first thing they were selling, followers. The second thing they were selling, posting on social media. Not saying that posting on social media is something that doesn't drive impact, but they started with the two things that matter the least. Not actual business results, fake followers, So like ultimately there are a lot of kids that took I don't want to say the cheap route, but they took the route with the least amount of friction that got people the vanity thing that they were looking for when the real result was, one step to the left. But that came a couple of years later, which is why I started in 2017 instead of 15, because I watched Ty Lopez's first round of students all go out and start selling fake Instagram followers. And I was like, that's not actually helping businesses. And then when I started, it was far easier for me to have conversations because they had already gotten screwed over by some of those marketers. And when I came in, it's like a refreshing conversation that's actually around helping their business grow and succeed rather than like, hey, we can get you 10K on Instagram in 2 weeks, you know?
hmm
So that just made the conversation feel different from day one. And now I'm in, again, a position of authority and curiosity because I'm selling something that most of the market isn't, or that most of them are doing the wrong way. So that's the cool thing about marketing is like there was a whole generation of marketing agencies that literally think they're selling the right thing, and it's not the right thing. Like they're SEO companies to this day that I know that are selling black hat SEO thinking it's white hat. They don't even know that what they're doing is wrong.
And just to clarify, black hat is which and white hat is which.
Black hat is the sketchy, like not borderline illegal, not following compliance and policies and all that type of stuff, where white hat is like, this is like, it's kind of like white glove. It's like
hmm
this is the clean, easy, like best way to go about it to get the most results. And a lot of people choose black hat because you can get to the money faster. You can get to rank number one in Google faster, and that's what a lot of businesses are looking for. So they don't care if it's done black hat or white hat, And it's like, but long term, you're gonna feel better if I do it right. And so I'm focused more on the feeling, which is what you and I have talked about a couple of times. So I've always, always set my focus on this is what's actually going to drive the business result. And then from there, it just makes like me going and talking to business owners, it's a million times more comfortable because I know I'm not sitting there selling them, 4,000 fake Instagram followers through a giveaway. I'm getting them actual sales and leads for their business that whether they close the deal or not is up to them as a business, but like I'm giving them opportunity to make more money if they want to, you know.
hmm
So it's always been an easy conversation for me and why I perceive it as such a logical next step because it's like, hey, we're doing things the right way. But I
Yeah.
don't even remember where that question started, honestly.
Well, it started with approaching a new customer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. you know, weaving through the conversation. But yeah, no. So, um, yeah, in sales, what it really comes down to is just knowing where your value is and what you're like. I wouldn't go up to a hair salon at all if I saw a QR code and text this to this phone number. There's no reason because I know I'm not going to be able to help them because I already have the solution that I'm able to provide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now in the case that I run into the owner of that hair salon at a networking event and we get to chatting and they're like, "Hey, I really don't like this text message platform that I'm on." Doors open. There we go. You know, you sniff out a deal. But I don't need to like hardcore approach that business and be like, "Hey, I see you guys are texting. Do you like the platform that you're on?" Now I sound like a sales guy, you know? So it's just having the mental freedom to approach the sale from an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. When you're approaching it, my old business partner used to say, "Don't have commission breath." And it stuck with me so hard because I was like, holy shit, the amount of times that I go into business conversations and I need to make a dollar, I probably sound like I need to make a dollar. And that's probably why those deals don't go through. So when I
Mm-hmm.
come into a deal with the mindset of abundance, of like I just said, I'm good. I've got the, excuse me, I've got the business. I don't need to worry about closing this deal because I already have stuff coming in that's going to fulfill everything that I need in my life. Now I genuinely can help rather than like, oh fuck, I gotta close this deal so I can make a dollar, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, buddy, I
Good
think
combo.
that was a good one.
Heck yeah.
I wish that we'd recorded all of this before because we were talking for quite a while about many different topics,
Yeah.
but maybe
I'll come back on.
next time.
Recurring customer, you know.
So if you would like to see anything else, I hope I can provide for you. Just let me know in the comments and I'll do my darndest to provide that value for you.
Like and subscribe. Of
Thank you.
course.